Hello and welcome to Melting Core. On tonight's episode, we will be covering the premier French bread event, Climax of Night. With its 6th iteration this weekend, Type Lumina players from across the globe are coming down to Georgia for the biggest bracket of 2024. Let's take a look at some of the strongest in attendance, the best of the best to keep an eye on. Let's start in the United States, the final destination for World Challengers. From the Northeast, we first have Kikoho, considered one of the best players in North America, and the continent's strongest Wark player. With an impressive second at Combo Breaker and various firsts and seconds at the weekly Monday Night Matchfest brackets, Kikoho is very familiar to the spotlight. His pool sees the other players from the Northeast currently, but should he clear his pool as expected, he'll be running into the West Coast threats of Raiden and Phantom in top 32. It's very likely to see Kikoho in top 8. Next up is fellow Connecticut player Aaron, who is playing Powered CL but has been occasionally preparing the Shiki for some matchups. The winner of Frosty Fausting's 2024, they have had a pretty quiet year otherwise, frequently attending the online Monday Night Matchfest tournament series and placing within the top 8 just about every week, with many first places on their resume. Their last offline event was East Coast Throwdown 2024, finishing just behind ScrawtVermillion for second. With other regions' unfamiliarity with the powered champion and the skills and history of a winner, Aaron is a name to watch this weekend. Kiri is a name that may be familiar to a lot of Lumina players. They typically keep to offline play at events such as Crossover Arc and Frosty Faustings, but it's been a pretty quiet latter half of 2024 for them, finishing at 5th at ECT. However, their general player skill is extremely high, so don't be surprised to see the Noelle player reach the top of the event. Naito is a familiar fixture to New York Melty Blood, and one of NA's active Akiha mains. His bracket appearances are small, but he finished in 2nd at the first Blood Moon Arcadian, and 3rd in the second one. Though other Akihas are in attendance from around the world, don't let Naito's name pass you by. JCOM's had a pretty interesting 2024. He finished at 9th at Frosty Faustings after a close set with fellow Mario main Vivian. He then traveled out to Japan for EVO Japan and finished in the top 8, briefly retired, came back, and is now ready to adapt and try new characters. How these developments pan out, we'll have to see, but his aggression and directness is sure to catch several opponents off guard at Climax. We now move to the Southeast United States, home to the venue and a lot of killers. First off, we have Jurassic Ori, frequent offline tournament attendee, and Vlav and Hisui co-main. She's traveling after a pretty slow year for her, getting 3rd at Tampa Never Sleeps and 2nd at CEO. With the occasional Florida local and regional events aside, this will be by far her biggest event this year. With Scrawt also not in attendance, this could give her a big opening to knock out the rest of the competition and reach the number 1 spot. Medusa, the second Vlav player from the region, is a mostly Florida player. He broke that isolation in 2023 with a trip to EVO, but this year he's kept just a notable appearance at Tampa Never Sleeps, where he achieved 2nd. However, he's been notably active in the PSA Discord for the last 2 months, and shows little rust because of it. He's another player to keep an eye on throughout the weekend. Defiant has had a pretty active year, with a 3rd place finish at Frosty Faustings and a 4th place at CEO. The 3rd Vlav player here has kept up the pace despite an also successful year in Under Night 2. With Climax of Night also being one of the most important Under Night tournaments of the year, his investment may be less. However, that was also said for Frosty Faustings' Melting Core, and we all saw what happened. Gumi is an Akiha player from the DMV area who has been mostly offline. They notably made top 8 at Combo Breaker this year, giving North America a notice on homegrown Akihas. Gumi has also started practicing more online in the lead up to the weekend, so like Medusa, keep an eye on those practicing in silence. Okay, breaking news. I have been informed that Gumi has been practicing Red Arcawood for the last little bit, so this bracket about to be real interesting. Link Pendrago is one of the Sabres in attendance, also from the DMV area. A strong 5th at Combo Breaker, he has been slowly grinding back up for the event. He's been slowly working his way forward over the last year, so we'll have to see if he can be the Saber that shakes up the rest of the bracket. We now move west to the Midwest and Canada. We've got a few notable names from both regions, so let's talk about them together. Lucy is a Midwest player on the Roa, but with as much strengths with Coma and other characters as the reincarnating vampire. Occasionally popping up in online brackets, Lucy typically finishes in the top 3 or top 1 whenever they do. With this being their first major offline appearance of the year, we'll have to see how it works out, but don't be surprised if they leave with the trophy. Made in Heaven, coming from the northern Midwest, is our second Saber player to mention. Finishing at 9th at Combo Breaker and later 4th at EVO this year, he's been active on and offline, taking names upon names. As we move towards the weekend, his aggressive, no-nonsense play will be a force to reckon with, that all in their path will have to be ready for. Up in Canada is Reaper, insert prefix here. under the tag of Shub Nagara, a Miyako and Mash co-main who has been balancing Lumina and Under Night for the year. A ferocious player when he pops up at the occasional Monday Night Mash Fest, he might be the player primed for the most quote-unquote upsets at the event. At the very least, his set should be ones to watch. We now head to the West Coast, which is bringing a team of battle-hardened players to the event. First off is Phantom, creator of multiple Lumina guides and an especially strong Miyako player. He's been playing a decent amount of Kohaku over the last 2 months, which may or may not make an appearance as well. If it doesn't, just know that this advancing champion is one who is primed for the top spot if he finds his groove. Chester may not be a familiar name to most, but she's proven herself to be one of the strongest players on the West Coast. Placing first in several Game Lab monthlies and 5th at the New Moon Arcadian, Chester will be the main Coma representative with Scrawt unable to attend. With 1 Coma and ASEA competitors, how far can she go within the bracket? Vivian is the West Coast's Mario representative, reaching top 8 at Frosty Faustings and a contender for any top 8. The quick and mobile Mario, Vivian will be sharing the Mario limelight with JCOM, whose style is quite different. It will be on contenders to be wary of both styles as they enter the weekend. Time to take a tour overseas, as Climax of Night has a large pool of international talent on the way. First, we have Spotty Len from France, an Arcwood player whose last 2 offline appearances have seen them place in the top 8 versus several of Europe's best. Arcwood, as a less common character in North America, could spell trouble for many, and when you add Len's skill piloting the True Ancestor, they will be a true threat to many in attendance. 2 Akiha players coming from the area are Luffy and Nahim. While Luffy has the benefit of coming to the States for schooling to interact with US players and give them experience in turn, Nahim is more restricted to the EU and maybe the Eastern US for games. 2 Dark Horses piloting Ring Spinners, they are both names to follow in the bracket. Magic Rider, Europe's strongest player, is also traveling across the Atlantic to take the Climax of Night first place spot. Switching off of Roa to play Arcwood as of the new patch, he is going to be a hell of a threat for anyone in his path. We'll have to see who, if any, can prevent him from coming out on top. From Europe, we now head to Japan, as we have 2 players from the island nation in attendance. First is Moai, who may not need an introduction. The winner of EVO 2023, he is highly regarded as one of the best to play the game. After a stint on Mario, the Roa main will be appearing at Climax of Night with the help of the MBAC fundraiser. With Lumina in his sights as well, many have him pegged as the surefire winner of the event. Shijo, an Akiha player, is bringing their expertise to Atlanta with the help of the MBTL fundraiser for the event. The Land of the Rising Sun is home to a good few Akiha players, a character that thrives within their metagame. Whether they find their footing away from home is something we'll have to see, but opponents will have to study up if they want a chance to end their run early. We return to the Americas, but this time we head south of the US border. We have 4 major competitors representing Latin America, and we'll finish our breakdown by talking about them. From Mexico, North America's premier Kohaku main, Drachme, is making an appearance with the help of the Lumina Climax of Night fundraiser. After getting upset early at Frosty Faustings, Drax 2024 has been mostly just popping up and doing well in online events. Should opponents look down on the broom wielder, they may see themselves knocked out early. Also, he's been practicing Aroa. Be afraid. Xiao is a Brazilian player who's been on the west coast of the United States for over a year. Despite few attendances on Start GG, the few appearances they have made have hit hard, including a 2nd place finish at Slashback 2024, where they lost to fellow Miyako player Phantom. If you thought you could skimp on your little shoe practice, well, think again and be prepared. Hayasaka is a powerful Wark player out of Chile, though they are also adept with several characters with serious competency. They are here through the Lumina Climax of Night fundraiser and are ready to prove themselves on the big stage. They have been a frequent player within the Panic Shield Anonymous server as well, so they have experienced part of the NA player base. With the internet limiters removed, we'll have to see if they have what it takes to reach the top spot. Donnie is a CL player from Chile, who is attending Climax through the Actress Again fundraiser for the event. One of the solemn few CL players in the arena, Donnie is one of the best to pilot the character. With a different style compared to North American CLs, it's possible for the Chilean to push through the competition on the weekend. I would be remiss not to mention by name a lot of contenders and less active players that are still in the mix. Safe, Akimi, StarX_, Masoma, Yui, Hyde, and Raiden are all entered, and through skill alone can upset any of the above mentioned names. North American dark horses such as Seaburn, Satsuino Gringo, Blixby, Axon, Amiga, Zoe, and so many other competitors are all up for big upsets and strong runs. Suffice to say, Climax of Night is an extremely dangerous bracket, one that is primed and ready for upsets. I should also mention that Friday there's going to be a Lumina exhibition streamed on twitch.tv/Arkma_MuddyKips between 3 different teams, NA East Coast, NA West Coast, and the international team. It's going to be a bunch of sets, a lot of games played, and should be a great time if you can tune in. If you have people you're cheering for, or players you expect to do well, please talk about them in the comments below. This is the end of our program tonight. Thank you all so much for watching. This has been Melting Core.